everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Changeling. I stared at Logan in silence for a long time, my brain trying to fully comprehend what he had said, a changeling. I knew what that was, I had read about them before, but that meant if I was a changeling, I couldn't even get my head around all the implications. You're sure she's a changeling? Logan nodded, having seemingly gotten over his initial reservations about talking about it. I'm sure her condition is all their remarks on silly work. Like it as not, that's why Brenna's been interested in her. I thought I felt someone talking about me. Brenna was standing in one of the back entrances, giving me a scathing look up and down. Didn't realize it would be you. Where? She yawned. I was sleeping in the back. Why is Brenna sleeping at the back of the bakery? She does that sometimes. What? I rubbed my forehead. You've been here the whole time? She shrugged. What exactly is the relationship between you two anyway? Do fairies always just kind of hang out together or what? Well, we don't always. Brenna and I knew each other before we both left. He's what humans would call a brother-in-law, though we don't have much use for such titles. What? Seriously? Wait, even Ewan didn't know that? Brenna, is it okay to say that? You've always... I don't have the patience to deal with questions anymore. You're Ewan's aunt? Brenna shrugged it off so easily, but Ewan looked stunned. He definitely hadn't known that. Is that why she'd been so keen to look out for me then? Though that didn't really make sense. Ewan and I were just sort of friends, and Logan said she'd been trying to pick a fight with the court, because I'm a changeling. This was way too much information, and all at once at that. I'm sorry, can we backtrack to this changeling thing? Because I'm still a bit lost on that. I've read about changelings, and... excuse me? Please spare us a summary of your readings. Humans know nothing of the activities of the Fae, or at the very least, nothing useful. The amount of books on the topic seems like he would disagree. If you're going to start boiling water in eggshells to prove yourself, it's just going to be a waste of time for everyone. I'm not going to start doing anything to prove myself. I just want to know why you people say I'm a changeling. Because you are. Because at some point in your pitiful, boring past, you managed to catch the attention of the Ancili court and get yourself tangled in a contract with them. And now you're inextricably caught up in their plans. No, totally inextricably, really. Brennan scowled at him. But wait, a changeling is when a human child gets replaced by a fairy child, or even a fairy adult. I'm sorry, what? A changeling is when a human child gets replaced by a fairy child, or even a fairy adult. You're saying that I replaced the real Cata Shane? Then Brenna pushed me against the counter, pinning me in place. Whoa, Brenna! Oh dear. He trotted across the shop and flipped the sign to close as Ewan tried to pry Brenna off. She slapped his hand away, keeping one of hers firmly on my collarbone. You idiot. There is no real Cata Shane. There is only you. However, your soul and body were severed from each other long ago, at whatever point the contract was entered into. Your body is waiting for you in Fairy, and your soul is here in this body. Why? I mean, setting aside the total weirdness of switching souls around and whether I believe that or not, why go to that trouble? We don't have to explain ourselves to you. Camouflage. What? Logan shot Brenna a look as he lowered the blinds at the front of the shop. I hope Dad doesn't show up looking for me. Cata Shane, do you understand what drives the Fae to seek out humans in the first place? No. Not really. Your life force. Humans live such a short amount of time, but their souls burn so bright, like a fire you can't even get close to for fear of being burned. By contrast, the Fae are like smoldering coals. They live long, but our life force is pale and weak compared to yours. With each new generation of fire slowly dies, they're more and more fragile. We need ya. We need humans to keep ourselves alive. How? Interbreeding, basically. That's right. That's why they wanted you so badly when you were born, and again when your fate traits assert themselves. They wanted Ewan? Wait, Ellie said something about that, didn't she? For quite a while, after the incident, it made us realize I was actually fully Fae, and there were a few attempts to drag me off the Fairy. Yeah, I remember Ellie mentioned that briefly. She didn't really go into much detail. But I'm still struggling to understand how all this relates to me being a changeling and having my soul in a different body or something. Because we struggle to not be discovered, because humans learn to detect our replacements and they would murder them, raid our hills, curse us until we gave their children back. Children we needed. Children you kidnapped. So we needed better ways to hide, just until our changelings were mature, just until we could safely bring them back to Fairy without them being hunted down. Infants don't wander off on their own, so if one goes missing, people notice. But adults? He shrugged off. He shrugged as if it didn't matter one bit. But he was right. If an adult or even a teen wandered off, people would look, but it's not like they'd necessarily suspect a kidnapping. So they stole my body and stuck my soul in a different body to hide the fact that they kidnapped me. And if I'm in some kind of contract, why don't I remember? It's not just any body that you're in, it's a fairy's body. And with your soul sheltered in the human world, your body can grow and mature without any negative impact on your life force. Ewan preempted my question there. Humans that stay in fairy for long periods are slowly impacted by the high levels of fey magic. They become more and more fairy-like over time. I assume that means you could decrease the potency of your life force if you were to grow up there, and defeat the purpose of taking you there in the first place. So this is basically a widespread conspiracy on behalf of fairies to kidnap as many human kids as possible without being detected until they're old enough for no one to care if they go missing, or at least until they're old enough for people to not look as hard, so you can use them for breathing. No one spoke. Sounds like you're all justifying this. Like, you think it's fine. You're standing calmly telling me I was kidnapped, that I'm in the process of being kidnapped. We do what's needed for survival, as everyone does. Wow. Hmm. 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 Survival of the fittest. Um. Is it right or is it wrong? Okay. Everyone has a right to survive, but that includes um the chain. I mean, I guess the changeling. Hmm. I don't know what to go for, honestly. I really don't know what to go for. Like, I understand their point of view. Okay, we just gotta do whatever we gotta do to survive. But on the other hand, the humans gotta do whatever they gotta do to survive too. So I don't think there's a good answer for this. So this is more ambiguous. Everyone has a right to survive, but not to kidnap people, hold them against their will, and whatever else they intend to do with me. Perhaps, but what if you agreed to go? I never agreed to anything. Perhaps you didn't know you were agreeing. If I didn't know I was agreeing, it wasn't an agreement. Yes! They could have also just sealed up your memories of it. How is that any better? Listen to me, Cata. I don't condone any of this, but fairies have their own sense of justice, and even if it doesn't always align with the human sense of fairness, it's there. What makes sense to you isn't the same thing that makes sense to them. And what? Because in their sense of justice is different, I should just respect it, even if it means letting them take me away. I didn't say that, and I don't think it either. Brenna, if you knew what I was, why didn't you tell me before now? Brenna shrugged. I was really hating how calm and casual she was being about this whole thing, but I guess this was just a run-of-the-mill thing for them, something that apparently happened all the time. I was waiting to see. To see what? How things turned out? How determined you were? How useful you would be? I just wanted to see who you really were before I made up my mind what to do about you. I took a long, slow breath, trying to convince myself she'd make a mincemeat of me before I could strangle her. Fine, fine. I grant that you were under no obligation to tell me anything. But I'm agreeing to this now. How do I reverse whatever they've done to me? You're saying that even if in your promise you want to break the promise? I don't see why I should be held to a promise I don't remember. And we don't know for sure that I agreed to this. We don't just take people, there has to be an agreement. Then why don't I remember it? Because they probably blocked your memory of it. Humans have a way of wiggling out of their promises, just like fairies do when they don't want to keep theirs. He leveled a scathing look at his dad. It probably happened when you were pretty young, and you may not have even known about it, because that's how these things work. So they took advantage of me before I was old enough to know what was happening. They erased my memory of it, and I'm supposed to keep my word as if all this is fair. It's not like a life in fairy is bad. You left. Well, that was enough of this, Dad. If you don't want to help us, maybe I should go ask Mom what she thinks about all this. The change in Logan's expression was dramatic. Brennan just scoffed, but Logan definitely knew that path spelled his doom, or something equally dramatic. He looked around wildly as if Ewan's mom would be summoned at the mere mention of asking her about it. No, please don't do that. Please. Then, well, there are methods. Methods? If and you could figure out the terms of your contract, you mean the contract I don't remember because my memories of it were sealed? That contract? There's a ritual. Brennan was silent the entire time, just watching us, not saying a word. I wasn't sure I liked that at all. When you say ritual, it makes me nervous. Geez, this started on an errand for cake and now all this. I was never going on an errand for that again. It's safe enough, usually. And usually, you're not doing something unsafe. The entire situation is unsafe by your standards, Ewan. By any reasonable person's standards. We're not reasonable people, we're fae, and so are you. But you are not. You're human. You don't even belong here in the first place. Well, I am here, and not really because I want to be. So if you don't like it, why don't you help me? Because I don't have to? You've been helping her, come on. Why be coy about it now? You've always been a bit disrespectful, not to mention an ungrateful brat. You're looking out for her because of Ewan? Bren didn't answer but looked away, still frowning. Her lips had set into a decided pout. If you want to try and break the contract, you should know that it's not easy to do right. And even if we do it, they may not just easily let you go. Just because we force them to return you, it doesn't mean they won't try to get you back. I'll have to worry about that if and when it happens. Fairies are a tricky little human. You shouldn't trust them so much. Oh, don't worry. I don't trust you as far as I can throw you. But I don't know who else I can turn to. Perhaps we should meet up tonight then? Why tonight? Why not now? Not really thrilled about having a fairy inside me right now. Technically, you're inside the... No, stop. I am not in the mood for technicalities. I'm here against my will, whether I'm in her body or she's in mine. I kind of feel like I'm about to have some creepy alien bursting out of my chest. I'm not okay with it. Xenomorph. Yeah. Aren't you here in town with your father? Yes. You understand that with this ritual, the fairy whose body you're inside of is going to have to go back. And your body will be returned. This is just a guess, but I'm assuming it won't be returned here. Obviously, they'll return her back to the place they took her from. That's what's fair. None of this is fair in the first place. Let's just brew up some foxglove tea and dump it on her head. Enough, Brenna. We don't want to kill the girl. Kill me? Oh, don't be such a crybaby. The risk is minimal. Easy for you to say when the risk is for me, not you. If and you think there's no risk at all to us, you're mistaken. We're both exiles after all. We managed to live peacefully so far, but that doesn't mean they'll turn a blind eye if we cross them. We'd be fooling ourselves to think they don't keep an eye on us. You shut up and glance Ewan's way, and those we love. They can do what they like. I don't. You don't have a wife and child here. I'm hardly a child. You are a child. You are both children. Logan just sighed and for the first time realized this wasn't just about me. I hadn't really thought about the fact he might be taking a risk by telling me all this, or by helping me. I didn't like that, but I also didn't like the thought of being kidnapped by fairy body snatchers. There's a time for these things, Scarorshan. The ritual needs to be performed at night, otherwise it could be dangerous. Unless you want. Die? Yeah, not a big fan of dying either. Is there somewhere we can use near your home? The woods nearby, maybe. We'll ensure the fair return you somewhere near where you live now, then. And I guess we'll spend the rest of the day getting things we need. Come on, I'll walk you out for now. We can go find your father. Oh, the cake. I need to pay for that still. Wasn't really in the mood for cake anymore, but Dad would ask where he was, and my head was too muddled to come up with excuses. Logan tipped his head to the side, smiling. You don't have to pay for it. It's on the house. Ewan slammed his hand on the counter, glaring. She has to pay, Dad. Enough of this. What? What's the deal? He sighed and looked down at me. Don't accept things from any fairy for free. Ever. I wasn't going to try anything. Trust your old man a little. No, she has to pay. It's okay. I have money to pay. We took care of that quickly, and I left still feeling a bit numb. You okay? Oh, sure. I mean, in the end, nothing's changed. Now I just know I'm a kidnapping victim. But hey, I'm already planning my daring escape, so it's fine. Ewan caught my arm, looking down at me seriously. Kershaw, you need to take this seriously. This isn't some kidnapping. This is a fake contract. And breaking it isn't a simple thing. I do know that. And it's okay to be upset about it. Honestly, I'm not sure how to react. More than anything, I'm just confused. There are so many working parts to this. When did it happen? How? Why? How does this fit in with all the things that have happened to me? Disappearances? What were those? The first one was when I was 9. If it was that, then why did I disappear again when I was 12? If it happened before either of those things, then when? And what were those disappearances? They have to be connected. If the disappearances were this fairy whose body I'm in trying to get home or something, why didn't she make it? She had more than enough time. And what does this mean for my current sleepwalking? I feel like I have even more unanswered questions now than I did before. Sometimes it's better not to ask too many questions when it comes to Fae. No, I need answers. Remember, I'm not the only one that's been affected by this. My brother was blinded because of that last disappearance. I'm not researching this just for fun. I want to help him. You know that may not be possible, but I'm going to try. Especially if what happened to him was because of me. Ewan sighed. I'll help if I can. We'll get it figured out. I'm glad to see not all fairies are jerks. I mean, you don't have to agree, and I'm not saying all fae are trustworthy saints, but you're also fae, so I flushed and looked away. Ewan hesitantly reached toward me, turning my head back to him as he tucked my hair behind my ear. I guess I'm glad to hear you feel that way. Well, I wasn't sure about you for a while, but I guess you're okay. Don't get full of yourself. I definitely wasn't sure about you either for a while. Hey, there's nothing wrong with me at all. Well, once you get used to that smart mouth of yours, you're not that bad. I made a face at him. I'll text you tonight when we're ready, and I'll be waiting for you when you're able to sneak out, okay? Sure. He left me there finally, and I went to track down my father to make sure he had kept the bargain and hadn't gone on any weird putting rampages again. The rest of the day was a bit weird. I spent it just trying to go through everything that had happened, trying to sort through it all. In the end, there wasn't a whole lot I could figure out on my own. The best I was able to do was make a sort of timeline of the events I knew had happened. What I couldn't work into was where this changeling thing fit in. The most logical conclusion was that it had happened before my first disappearance, not only because my second disappearance didn't make sense if it had happened during the first, and the first didn't make sense if it happened during the second, but also because fairies usually took fairly young children, which meant it made more sense if it had happened prior to 9 years old. But when? That was a big question. I spent most of the afternoon trying to remember anything from early childhood that might give me hints. Apparently I was trying too hard, because I just ended up with a major headache and had spent the evening trying to sleep it off, so I'd be ready for sneaking out at night, intentionally this time. Ugh, I hate this. It felt like forever before my family finally went to sleep. Finally, slow footsteps made their way up the stairs and down the hall. There was this clicking on and off of the light switches, the scuff of Spencer's socks on the floor. I heard his door shut, and a strip of light appeared under the door of the bathroom. Spencer's shadow moved back and forth as he brushed his teeth, then headed for bed. The light flickered off, and the house went dark and silent. My phone lit up close to midnight, Ewan telling me they were ready. I waited another half hour to ensure everyone had fallen asleep before I tried to leave. I slid off the bed and grabbed my jacket, and also grabbed a pair of tennis shoes I'd left out just for this. Shoes and jacket in hand, I eased my door open and stepped down the hall. If anyone caught me, I was going to use the excuse that I was just getting some fresh air because I couldn't sleep. It wasn't a school night, so should be fine. Mom probably wouldn't question it. Fortunately, no one woke up as I quietly stole outside and paused on the back porch to put my shoes and jacket on. I'm heading out in the backyard. I'm at the back gate waiting. Figured you'd come this way. I quickly hopped off the porch and headed to the gate, glancing back at the house apprehensively. I was suddenly afraid. What was really going to happen? I trusted Ewan, but even he seemed leery of Brenna and his dad. Even so, what else could I do? As I passed the fairy ring, I shot it a glance. As always, I felt a strange pull toward it. I faltered, briefly. If I looked at it just right, I could almost see. No, I couldn't get distracted. I quickened my pace and let myself out the back gate. A shadow moved close by, and it was Ewan. Hey! Hi! Come on, let's do this fast. They're not far off. He led me down the path back to the trees. Jesus, whatever that line was. I followed behind him silently, really hoping this turned out okay. I was nervous about sticking out. It was a little strange because I'd done it so many times already. It was just that usually I didn't worry about things like getting into trouble or getting caught because I was asleep. This time though. Not that I needed something else to worry about. My foot came down on some wet leaves and I nearly let out a shriek as I slid a few feet and crashed into Ewan. We both staggered forward, but he managed to catch himself and me before we hit the ground. Sorry. I was speaking in a whisper, but my voice sounded so loud in the cold night. It's okay. He took my hand and squeezed it. You scared? Only completely terrified. I want to get this over with. Just a little longer. We headed deeper into the trees, and soon the lights from the house vanished. It felt creepier than usual. It was so dark and the woods were silent, more so than usual, as if everyone was waiting for whatever we were about to do. I moved closer to Ewan, more unnerved than ever. We didn't walk far before I heard singing. I tensed instantly. There was always singing in my dreams. Faint, beautiful, ominous. This was different. How to say, Ewan was a roving boy, rantin' roving, he was a roving boy, rantin' roving Ewan. He'll have misfortunes great and small, but hey my heart, upon them all, he'll give his daddy's name a blow, he'll be a proud of Ewan. I shot Ewan an amused look in the dim light, some of my apprehension evaporating as I recognized that voice. Ewan, on the other hand, looked very unamused. That's not how the lyrics go. I had no idea what the heck his dad was up to, but he didn't walk much further before we hit a small clearing where he and Brenna were raiding. It looked like they had been busy. I could have just made out the mark on the ground. It looked like a rough circle with a star inside. I counted 7 points. Brenna had a large thermos in her hand, something that kind of broke the otherwise mysterious feel of everything. Good timing. We just finished up and have plenty of time to spare. We're on a time limit. We have a window of a few hours. We need to get this done by 3. Why? There's a bit of an upswing in magic air energy between midnight and 3 in the morning. Oh, right. I think I've read about it, the witching hours or something. Right. You can do it at any time, but it just might not work as well, or at all. Or it could just go really wrong, like really, really wrong. Don't let me be boring ya. We set it all up to be as safe as it can be. So, now what? Ewan was still gripping my hand pretty hard. He pulled me gently to the center of the star. You'll want to kneel here. Well, this is comforting. It's a fairy star, nothing nefarious. This will ensure a safe return to your current home. It will prevent the fae from just setting it loose somewhere and nabbing you again while you're vulnerable. So drink this and shut up. She tossed me the thermos and I fumbled to catch it. What is it? It's a potion that'll drive you out the fairy's body, severe the magic binding you to contract, and force them to return you. Is it safe? No magic is safe, little girl. Magic works or it doesn't. That's what matters. Fine. Are you sure it will work? Logan stepped in a circle and crouched next to me. It will work, but you need to listen. You've been in the body a long time. I don't know how long. I can see that far. When you come to, you may be a little confused. You may not remember everything. Just trying to stay put until we find you. And we're going to make some enemies doing this. If when it was anyone else helping you, the Fae might count as a loss and move on. But the Fae in you is going to recognize us no matter who she is. It may not be over just because we got you back. Remember that, and be wary. Sure, that sounds encouraging. I had no idea how I would be wary if my memories were going to be screwed up after this. He and Ewan stood and left me alone in that circle, feeling more than a little intimidated. And Ewan didn't stop with Logan and Brenna. He actually started out of the clearing entirely. I felt a moment of panic as he abandoned us. Ewan? I started to get to my feet. Don't worry, he's just heading back to your home, so he'll be waiting for you when you're returned. Okay, it's going to be alright, just trust me. That wasn't reassuring given my previous conversation with Ewan. Along with Brenna and Logan, I shivered again, though it wasn't because of the cold. Alright, Shanks, now or never. I looked over at him, then on the thermos. I didn't really like the idea of drinking some weird potion. Barely have to drink it. We could douse you, but... Well, this won't be completely pleasant either way, but drinking it will ease the pain somewhat. You neglect to mention this was going to be painful. Logan smiled awkwardly. We're trying to make it as easy as we can. No, it's fine. Let's just get this over with. I unscrewed the cap, squeezed my eyes shut, and without further ceremony, drank the liquid as fast as I could before I could change my mind. The potion hit the stomach like lead, and I barely swallowed it all before coughing as my throat started to burn. Even with my eyes shut, the world seemed to spiral and whiz around me. I wanted to double over and retch, but I was worried if I did, I would fall down and never stop falling. I was trapped, floating in a deep, dark place, surrounded by whispering voices. They passed over me like moth wings. I swirled faster and faster. Up was down, left was right. I had no idea where I was. There was a soft whisper, angry, frantic. My eyes jolted open, as if I had been dreaming and tripped down a stair. One moment the world was nothing but darkness, and the next I was standing, staring up at the stairs. What? Where? Why was I outside? I don't remember. I looked around worriedly. Outside. Night. I glanced out at myself, dressed, like I'd been hiking or something. But at night? I glanced behind me as the unfamiliar path led up to an unfamiliar row of houses. Where on earth am I? Ugh. I put a hand to my head. Everything was so fuzzy, so weird. I started up the path because, well, my only other option was the woods. There was something familiar about one gate, partially open. I peered inside and that's right, this is a new house. How could I have forgotten that? I stepped inside, still unsure why I was outside at night, but two arms snaked out of darkness and wrapped around me. Shane, let's go. I tried to yank myself away from the assailant I couldn't even see. He held me tightly against his chest. Shane, are you alright? Who was this? I don't want to shout. I'm going to elbow him. Whoever had grabbed me was tall, very, very tall, stupidly tall, but that also meant I was perfectly positioned to attack. I managed to wiggle one arm loose enough from the sudden embrace to elbow him firmly in the gut. Ugh! The tall man doubled over, loosening his grip on me. This gave me a chance to pull away, scrapping the air out of my eyes again. I staggered back a step or two, trying to put some distance between the two of us. You stay back! Who are you? The stranger wheezed, trying to catch his breath. I was a little proud of myself, honestly, and he wasn't any less than he deserved. You didn't just grab random people in the middle of the night. Have you always been this violent? Only when strangers grabbed me in the middle of the night. Now that I was getting a look at him, I realized he wasn't much older than me, if at all, and something about him was familiar. Put a hand to my head as I tried to remember. Why was it so hard to remember? This person was... We moved, and there was a club. We were reading Shakespeare. Yorick. I don't know why that was the first thing that came to mind. I mean, that's so stupid. No one's going to then name their kid Yorick. Stranger closed his eyes, as if summoning up all of his patience. We've been through an ordeal, so I'm going to ignore that. This time. Ewan also hated. Wait! The realization hit me like lightning. Suddenly, everything rushed back at once. The club, magic was real, I was a changeling, and Ewan! Relief washed over Ewan's face. You remember me now? Of course I remember you. I mean, I forgot there for a few minutes, but yes, I remember now. The fact that I'd forgotten him so completely was actually sort of terrifying. You okay? I think so. My head's still a bit fuzzy. How much do you remember? Hard to say. If there's something I haven't remembered, I'm not going to remember that I don't remember. He rolled his eyes at that. What? It's true. Do you remember about your ritual? Ritual? There were hesitant flickers of some kind of memory when he said that. Rena in a clearing, holding something, a 7-pointed star. Right, I sort of remember what happened. You left and I drank that thing. Everything was burning and I heard voices, then I was here. Wait, did you see them return me? I was hiding, just listening. I didn't want to push my luck and deal with however many of them showed up. I placed a hand to my chest, looking around. I don't really feel any different. Ewan reached a hesitant hand out and picked a lock of hair. Her hair is longer. I patted my head and ran my hands through it myself. Whoa, he was right. It was way longer. Guess the Fae aren't much for haircuts. I'm so glad you're okay. Yeah, well, I mean, me too. I don't know how to thank you for this. Without you and your dad, I would still have no idea what was going on. More my dad than me. Not true. Not true at all. I don't feel like I did much to help. You've helped me repeatedly. Oh my god, just accept the thanks already. Jeez. Ewan smiled slightly. Fine, you're welcome. That's at least 2 coffees you owe me now. Alright, challenge accepted. Why don't we meet tomorrow? Today, whatever. What time even is it? Very, very early. Strangely, I didn't feel tired at all. So, coffee? Ewan grinned slightly, taking a step closer. 2 coffees? In one day? You're totally going to stunt your growth. At least mine isn't already stunt. I glared up at him. The only reason you're not short is because your dad is also a giant. My dad is normal sized. I hesitated. Will you help me, figure out how to pay him back? And Brenna? I feel like I should. I think it's probably wise. A sudden shaft of faint light hit the both of us, and I rolled around. Someone's awake. Get inside, now. He bolted across the backyard, and I watched him for a split second before I stepped inside quickly and tore my jacket off. There was absolutely no hiding that I was fully dressed, and as I sidled behind the island just as Spencer came down. Killer Shane? I paused with one hand on the kettle and one reaching for a mug. Spencer squinted at me in the dim light. Is that you? He stood at the foot of the stairs, tired and confused. His hair was mussed, and he looked like he was still half asleep. Who did you think? Santa? What are you doing? I couldn't sleep. I was about to make this hot chocolate. Spencer stood there, still staring at me for a long time. I expected him to ask why I was dressed, but he just started back upstairs. Whatever. I'm going back to bed. Good night? It was gone before I'd even finished speaking. I hope I didn't notice the hair. I'd have to wear it up for a few days so no one would notice, at least until I could get it trimmed. It was nearly past my waist now. I leaned against the island, glancing at the clock. I should probably wait a bit before going up, long enough to have feasibly made the hot chocolate. A shadow flittered across the stairs and I started, staring with wide eyes. A small shape stooped and a strange creature crept out of the shadows. Oh, the brownie! I'd forgotten that as well. Shh! I put a finger to my lips and he mirrored me. That's right. He looked at me for a moment, then vanished down the hall without a sound. After about 20 minutes, I crept back up to my room, shoes and jacket in hand. I was still piecing things together. There were a few holes in my memory still, faces without names, or names without faces, but it was starting to come back to me. The important parts anyway. I remember the club and my research. I remember the conversation where Logan told me I was a changeling. My phone buzzed in my hands. I tried to figure out what was still missing. Ewan. I opened the message quickly, hoping nothing had gone wrong on his way home. Home, are you okay? I'm fine, just Spencer. Figures he would be the evil twin. Everything okay? Yes, we're fine. How's the memory? Not sure. Getting better though. Won't assume anyone else is a kidnapper. Probably. Lucky them. Things were tumbling back into place bit by bit. Ewan and I continued to text until the sky grew faint with watery light. We slowly went over everything that had happened since I moved back. Some things I recalled, others I didn't. Ewan reminded me about the Spriggan. I'd forgotten about that, and that weird bridge, the way I kept having strange feelings underneath it. He reminded me about sleepwalking and how it was probably the fairy whose body I was trying to get me back to fairy. And he reminded me that even now, I should be careful. As I finally snuggled back into bed, there was still one part of the conversation replaying in my head. Ewan was gently reminding me that, in spite of everything, I may not really be normal anymore. I had spent at least 5 years in fairy, probably much more. All that exposure to fairy magic had undoubtedly changed me. At best, I would retain sensitivity to magic and probably the ability to use it. At worst, I wasn't even human anymore, though I wouldn't be Fae either. He said he'd be able to get a better feel for it when we met later in the day. I wasn't sure how I felt about that, to be honest. On one hand, if I was suddenly shut out of the club, shut out of all this, I'd feel, I don't know, it would be weird. I think I'd miss it in a weird way, but at the same time, it would have been a relief as well. As it was, I was getting warnings to be careful, to remember that the Fae weren't gone, they'd just given me back, and it didn't mean they wouldn't try to take me again sometime, that I might not even be human anymore, which I'd kind of accepted that, but now I feel weird all over again. I threw an arm over my face. I felt confused, frustrated, and like I hadn't had time to properly absorb any of this. It all happened too fast. I just need time to decompress, to think about it all, write it down, and just really think about it. I dozed off some time after that. My dreams were a jumble of voices and darkness, and hearing people calling for me while I stumbled around, unable to find them in the dark. There was a large, strange space, open, echoey, with lights that dazzled my eyes. Goodness me! Singing voices. All around me was the scent of earth and moss. Abruptly, the lights faded, and I was left in empty darkness with silence echoing around me. From somewhere, I heard the sound of a single bell ringing. And then I was awake, staring at my ceiling in the bright morning light. Though I had barely slept, I didn't feel tired. The opposite. I was jittery and energetic. I felt strangely nervous, but at the same time, it was like a weight had been lifted. A weight I hadn't even known I was carrying. I spent the morning on the phone with Allie. I hadn't touched base with her at all the previous day, much to her displeasure now that I was finally filling her in. Are you kidding me? How could you not tell me any of this yesterday? To be honest, it's still a bit fuzzy, but I think I just spent the afternoon counting the days. I mean, I suddenly found out I'm a changeling, there's a method to fix it, and I don't know. I didn't even think about it, to be honest. Well, think about it next time. I hope there's not a next time, thank you very much. Besides, I'm not sure Logan and Brenna would have let you be there. They were weird about me being there, and I was the one getting help. Yeah, they shared a pretty big fairy secret with you. I bet they weren't happy about that. They indicated others might not be happy about it too. Logan apparently wanted to have a memory of the ritual too, but Ewan wouldn't let him. Not surprised. Fairies and secrets. You should keep doing that barrier we taught you for now. Even if we don't have to keep you in it anymore, now would probably be a good time to keep the rest of them out. After that, we agreed to meet up at the courtyard. Allie told me I could get there through the cafe. I managed to better the keys from Spencer so I could head into town alone. I had to park a couple of blocks from the cafe, but I didn't mind too much. It was a nice day and I enjoyed walking. Or would have, but I can still see them. All the cryptics lurking around, the drifters and what have you. I could see them all. So I'm really not back to normal, am I? I wasn't sure why I was so disappointed by that. I probably would have been as disappointed if I had gone totally back to how I was as well. Probably more than disappointed. Scared. I still know they were there, even if I couldn't see them. And somehow, that might be worse than still seeing them. But I don't know. There was a kind of finality to it now. I wasn't normal. I would never be normal again. But I should be normal. I would be normal if it wasn't for what the Fae did to me. I guess that's what was frustrating me. I just felt weird about the whole thing, really. Weird, mixed up, and still a bit frustrated, if I was being honest. I sighed and tucked my head down as I waited for the light to turn so I could cross the street. Someone smashed into me from behind, nearly sending me flying into the street. Confront. Seriously? I spun around glaring, but my eyes went wide when I saw the shriveled, creepy lady. Holy shit, this is fucking creepy. I staggered back, my foot nearly slipping off the curb. She reached a thin, bony hand my way. We can't have you remembering secrets. I flailed wildly, swatting her hand away. There was a voice in the back of my head that was saying I couldn't hit old ladies, but then, most old ladies didn't look like her. The light chimed, and I scrambled away from the lady, darting across the street like a mad woman. I had no idea if she was following. I wasn't going to check. I was just glad the cafe wasn't that far away. I ran the rest of the way there, stopping only briefly to catch my breath, before pulling the door open and heading inside. I glanced back, but didn't see the old woman anywhere. What the heck was that? I let out a long sigh as I stood just inside the cafe, trying to compose myself again. I showed Merle an awkward smile as I headed for the exit I knew led to the courtyard. He grinned in response. We're going to start charging for use of that door. I made a face at him. I'll buy a coffee on my way back through. I'll hold you to it. I waved as I stepped through the courtyard beyond. I entered the courtyard to find a surprising number of people there. Danny, Elliot, Drayson, Shelley, Ewan, Ellie. Way more than I was expecting, to be honest. I wasn't sure how they all found out what happened. But our shame. Ellie was across the courtyard and wrapping her arms around me in a fierce hug before I could even blink. Jeez, calm down. Oh my god. She squeezed me tightly and I gasped for air as I awkwardly patted her back. Ewan told us all about it. Are you okay? I am, I think. Not sure. It's just that, I could see all the cryptics on the way to the shop still, so I guess that answers the question about being back to normal again. I'm not, and I never will be. It's not all bad though, right? No. I don't know. It's overwhelming all over again somehow. Still, things could have turned out a lot worse. No, I know that. I'm not upset with how things turned out. I was lucky Ewan was there to help me with his dad. I caught Ewan's eye and smiled. He smiled back, though only slightly. The smile didn't reach his eyes. I frowned, wondering if he was okay. He's definitely lucky you had people who caught on to what was happening before the Fae managed to get you back to their world. I still want to know when and how all this happened. I mean, I have so many questions. It might be best to just let it go. Sometimes questions don't get answered, and sometimes it's for the best. Even I don't have all the answers about why I developed magic. But don't you want them? I mean, surely you... I do want them. And in my case, it's not something I can easily ask. Can't imagine walking up to Dad and asking if he's a wizard. In your case, it might be dangerous. You managed to get away mostly unscathed. From now on, it would probably be best to not get involved in fairy matters. Well, to be fair, I never wanted to get involved with fairies in the first place. I shot Ewan a sheepish look, instantly realizing how that sounded. No offense. He just shrugged slightly. Still, at this point, I think it would be smart if you stayed as far away from anything fairy related as possible. She can't just stay away like that. It's in her blood now, you know. They may not leave her alone. She can't close her eyes to that. We both looked up at him with surprise when he broke in suddenly. He seemed annoyed. Ellie frowned. She's still partly human, Ewan. I hope you realize that. She's not one of you. If she can walk away from this now, I think she should. One of us? What's that supposed to mean? You mean she's not like you? She's not Fae? Not really. She never has been. Are you saying things were easy for me just because I get to claim I'm Fae? I'm not saying that at all. What's even wrong with you right now? If anything, you should know how hard things could get for her if she keeps poking into things. She could capture more negative attention from... She's already captured their attention. That isn't going to change. I can't help her through it though. I've been there, and you're telling her to stay away from me like I'm dangerous. Oh my god, I'm not telling her to stay away from you. No one said that. Sounds to me like that's exactly what you're saying. But she said herself she's not normal anymore, so why should she pretend to be? That's more dangerous than acknowledging she is, at least in part, one of us. I don't agree with that. A bigger part of her is... Ahem. Ellie stopped and looked my way. Isn't it my decision how far away I stay from this? It's your decision. But you know, the rest of us have been there too, not just Ewan. I can promise that some of us would definitely have kept our distance if we had a choice. I'm telling you, there's no choice here. She can't just stick her head in the sand now that the Changeling contract is broken. And she said she still has questions, which doesn't mean it's smart to go looking for them. Why? Because all the big bad fairies in town might do horrible things to her? They already have, haven't they? Not all of us. Enough already. They both started when I finally raised my voice. You guys don't get to decide this for me. If I want answers, I'll find them. If I want to hide in a blanket fort and pretend none of this happened, I'll do that too. Stop arguing about me like I'm not even here. You know what? Do whatever you want. I'm out of here. I stared after him as he stormed out of the control through the cafe. What the heck was that about? I have no idea. That had kind of come completely out of nowhere. I'll go after him, see what's bugging him. Same. Two of them left, and after a beat, Drayson followed, waving slightly as he passed through the door into the cafe. Ellie just sighed, shooting Shelley a frustrated look. I guess he's upset because he thought he finally found someone to commiserate with, and now he feels he's losing it. Commiserate over how irritating fairies are? I mean, I can still do that. Look, to be totally honest, now it's just us three, you really should consider that it might be dangerous to spend time with him. With Ewan? Why? Whether he likes it or not, he's much more connected to the Fae than you are. Given who his dad is, I wouldn't be surprised if they keep an eye on him. Well, Logan had said as much anyway, and he'd warned me too, though he didn't say anything about me staying away from them, as if that would help. It definitely seemed more like a blanket warning. Actually, I've seen a few of them popping in and out of the shop. Fae, I mean, when they're not being careful. Look, Logan also indicated the fact that he was the one helping me. Logan also indicated the fact he was the one helping me would catch attention. Well, him and Brenna, even though I thought he'd sever ties with them and all. I don't think you can really ever sever ties with a fairy. Then what's the point of me avoiding Ewan? Even Logan just warned me to be careful. He didn't act like I should pretend none of it happened though. And Shane, the difference between you and them is that you're human. The fact Logan wanted to erase your memory of the ritual shows you that they don't really consider you one of them. Which means that unlike Ewan, you might be able to walk away from this. And if you can, it would be for the best. Because you've been touched by the Fae, and you know a lot about them. it looks like you're still clinging on to Fairy in any way, who gets you wrapped up in their affairs again. Logan and Brenna helped you knowing it might backlash onto them. But if you turn your back on it completely, they might forget about you. So I should just let them deal with the consequences and try to get on my own life? That's what she was saying? I don't like the idea of avoiding Ewan. That doesn't seem right. They helped me. How can I turn my back on that? Think about Spencer then. The further into that side you go, the further you'll move away from him. But if you're trying to regain as much normalcy as possible, it might open a door to fixing things with him. Normalcy? Ellie, you keep saying I'm human and all that, but I'm not. Not anymore. There's no way I can just pretend none of this is real. I know. It's about balance. You can be on the side of things without getting completely engulfed in Faye business. Was it even possible to balance this? The others seem to do it, I guess, but the others didn't have Spencer, and the others weren't, at least partially Faye. I wasn't sure I could mend things with him, walk away from everything Fairy, including Ewan, and balance anything. Anyway, I don't want to freak you out, but yeah, if you start a sentence with that, I'm going to be easily freaked out. I was thinking it might be wise for us to teach you some defensive magic. Probably not today, but sometime soon. Definitely before Samhain. Wait, why before then? Well, we don't know how ticked off they are about your contract being broken. If there's a time for the Fate to try anything in regards to that, it's going to be Samhain. Okay, that freaks me out. Look, we'll take precautions. It's just that the Fae naturally gain a lot of power that night, so it'll be good to be prepared. The one measure I gave you won't be enough to protect your entire house, but maybe we can look into spreading some other fairy banes around just to be safe. That's probably a good idea. We can spread some salt around the perimeter. Maybe put up some iron objects to ward them off. Now that you don't have one in your head anymore, it'll probably be a lot easier to resist the call to go wandering. Yeah, and we'll find time for a short magic lesson. Just something to teach you some barrier spells, just in case. This all seems worrying. Well, we could be overreacting. I hope we're overreacting, but just in case. It never hurts to be cautious. We'll get things together and work out a time to meet. Can't I help? I mean, with the whole getting things together, I can help but feel everyone keeps helping me and doing things for me. We don't mind helping you with this stuff. I know, but I feel a little like I'm just getting swept along and all without. I struggle to find the right words to explain. It feels a bit like things are just happening to me, and I don't have much control over it. I guess it would be nice to feel if I'm actually doing something, not just standing around waiting for others to help me. I want to help with this. It's my life, my problem. I should help. Ellie smiled slightly. I understand. We have a fair amount of research under your belt. Compile anything you have about fairy banes and protections, and make that your focus. If there's anything you can get on your own, or do on your own, do it. And we'll gather anything you don't have access to. Because I'm betting you don't have a lot of iron horseshoes and four-leaf clovers sitting around your house. That is true. She reached over and took my hand, giving it a careful squeeze. It may not be over yet, but the situation is a lot better now than it was a week ago, and that's something to be grateful for. There's one other thing. What's that? Spencer. The brother, right? Is everything okay with him? Well, I mean, he's been this normal, cranky, snooping self, but if you're worried about Spencer and the club, I don't think there's a need, now that we know you're a changeling and not actually a fae. That means there's virtually no chance at all that Spencer is cryptic. We can probably just leave him alone now. That's true, but that wasn't what I was going to talk about. What then? It's his eye injury. It seems more and more likely that was something related to fairies, and I just want to try to find a way to fix it if I can. He may hate me, but in the end, that incident was my fault. I don't like the idea of just ignoring it. That's one thing I refuse to leave alone. I understand. We can make that our focus on after Samhain, okay? I'll help you look into it. Me too. Thanks. In the end, if we could at least do that much for him, I'd be satisfied. Or at least I'd try to be. After that, Allie and Shelley had walked me to my car, and I had gone back home alone. I was still feeling a bit dazed by it all, and worried about Ewan. He never came back, and I wasn't sure what that meant. I hoped he wasn't mad at me. I was still torn over what Allie had said about staying away from fairies. I didn't like that idea at all. He wasn't just some fairy. He was a friend, at the very least, and I think he'd been hurt by the idea of them telling me to stay away. Maybe I should try to text Ewan. Just see how he was doing, maybe reiterate my gratitude. I didn't reach for my phone. I wasn't really filling up the conversation. Actually, I've been feeling kind of gross ever since I arrived home. I didn't know if it was all the stress catching up to me or what. So I was flopped in my bed with my journal nearby, trying to flip through all my notes on fairy mains. I was struggling to focus though. I stared down into scrawled code covering the pages and traced my fingers over the swirls, mine and Spencer's language. I sighed, wishing times would be close and could come back. I read this wrong. Wishing that. Oh my god. Anyways, she misses being back to when they got along. That's it. With me stuck as some kind of fairy hybrid and Spencer just a normal human with every right. Oh my god. To be suspicious of me and at my weird school club, those times might never come again. It was frustrating because there had been a time we both had seen and experienced weird things. A time we both. I frowned and sat up, mulling that over. There had been a time we shared stuff. A time we both seen this kind of things. They had said it wasn't terribly uncommon for children to see Fae, but Ewan also said it was strange for a 12-year-old to still be able to see them. If we assume that 5 years ago Spencer saw something Fae related, and that's why his sight was stolen, then it would mean it wasn't some chance sighting. It would mean he retained his childhood ability to see Fae. But if the only reason he couldn't see them now is because his ability to see them was damaged when the sight in his right eye was stolen, if I'd never become a changeling, if none of that had happened 5 years ago, would Spencer and I still be able to see fairies? Would we still have that kind of supernatural side? If that was the case, then we really were never normal to begin with. Oh, I flopped back on the bed. Thinking about it made my head hurt. There was no way to know what might have been, only what had been. Still, Allie might want me to try to walk away from all this, but she might be forgetting that our connections to the Fae went deeper than just this changeling situation. Even Shelley said that could be the case. We saw them as children. I was targeted by them back then. We had definitely been tangled with them for a long, long time. Walking away from it all might not be as easy as Hallie hoped. Oh my goodness, what a long, long chapter. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you soon.